Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms. My name's Stuart. I quite like to test out new painting products on the channel, and I've been receiving things from a very small company in Nottingham called Hobbies for quite a while now, and I've looked at some of their ready mixed oil washes before, and they've sent me some new ones, and I thought it was time to crack out the old ones and review all 6 of their current range.
Miniature Realms is proudly sponsored by Counter-Attack Bases. They stock a wide range of counters, gaming aids and movement trays for multiple game systems, and offer custom items to suit your club or even your podcast or YouTube channel. Make sure you check out their old world compatible range. It's expanding all the time. New ranges are being added soon. Look at these fantastic generals tokens to help those of you who are forgetful remember in-game effects and spells and things like that. And look at these old world legacy army token sets as well. Again, more of these are being added all the time, and very nice they are. Check out the link in the video description.
If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you'll know I like to use oil washes all the time. They've almost entirely replaced my use of standard washes like Agrak Shade or Known Oil when it comes to metals, but I also like to use them for effects and things like rust and streaking as well. And I'll sometimes use even more coloured oil washes for fleshes and things like that, but a little bit less so. But I absolutely love using them. I love the flexibility that they give you, that you can wipe them away again afterwards, so that they weather really nicely. They really get in those recesses and don't want to leave pooling and tide marks and all those ugly things that regular washes can do on the flat surfaces. And if they do, you can go back and wipe it away. So they're just fantastic. So bear that in mind while I'm talking about them in this video.
I recently picked up a 3D printed prop las pistol, Imperial Guard las pistol, which I thought would be fun to paint. Not really so much for a video, but I'm going to be using that in this video. It's going to end up on a shelf behind me as a bit of a prop for filming and things. It's all a bit of fun. It's absolutely non-firing. It does have a little trigger you can pull, which you've just seen fall out there in that shot. But anyway, I'm not going to be painting this in the video. It's not a tutorial to paint this las pistol prop at all. I actually got the metals down, airbrushed the metals down the other day as one of the lessons I do with one of my students. So thank you very much to Shane. You'll recognise this if you're watching this video. I was able to demonstrate some metal techniques with the airbrush, and now I finished painted it off camera, added the gold bits and the buttons and things like that. So it's just ready for weathering now, and this is the perfect kind of sort of topic really to show off all of these paints, and I think I should be able to use all of them. So these are the older ones that have been around for a while. There's a verdigris, a rust and a grime. I've definitely used the grime in multiple videos before, and I found a way of using them all, but I'll cover them again. And then the new ones, we have carbon, mud and molten, and molten's essentially a white oil wash. They all require a good shake, and oil paints always do like this, because all of the pigment, the paint, whether that's a powdered pigment or whether it's an oil paint in it, will settle at the bottom of the pot, and sometimes it helps to give them a real good mix as well. There is an agitator in each of these pots, and it does a decent job of mixing it, but I find that just giving it a really good mix evens it all out, and it's needed with these, as we'll come on to throughout the video. So I'm starting with the carbon, which is the sort of essentially a black wash. Its viscosity, its consistency is very similar to non-oil standard wash. So it's quite weak in pigment compared to some oil paints, and that is a little bit of a theme through these going forward. It's still very good and very usable, but it's quite subtle. So in many ways, I think this would be perfect to use in place of a non-oil on metallic areas on a miniature, and metallic paints are quite robust, so you can usually just apply these on top without varnishing. Because this is a large piece, I've already gloss varnished the whole thing to protect it. And then afterwards, once it's dry, and for me that means touch dry, it can be a little bit tacky but no wet areas left, you can remove the oil paint. And what I'm doing for this project is basically buffing it away and getting rid of any of the hard tide marks or wash lines and things like that. If I needed to get away a stubborn area that I couldn't remove very well, just like this, I could use a cotton bud or Q-tip or a paintbrush, an old one that is, and remove with a little bit of clear artist thinner as well. I don't know how well that shows up on the camera, but it's given a nice black recess shade there. Now I've wiped it away, and we're moving on to the mud now. This is a little bit stronger in pigment, so it goes on a little bit thicker. So this one you could thin it and still get a good use out of it. I don't think you could thin the carbon one that much, and again I'll come back to that as part of my sort of conclusions at the end. I'm very much painting these into similar areas, building up on the black that I've already done, but I'm trying not to describe too much what I'm doing apart from a bit of an overview, because this isn't a tutorial, as I've already said a number of times, of how to paint this weapon here. So I'm running into the recesses though, just because that's where I want to sort of colour the metal a little bit more, but also adding patches all over the metal area. I want to provide a look that looks like the weapon's old and being used over time, and the metal's discoloured slightly, so adding different patches of browns and things can work really well. So I'm being quite subtle with it, splashing it into areas, making sure that in places it's allowed to run into the recesses where I want it to look like dried grime, and that's where most of it. And then just the same as you saw before, once it's touch dry, and I just speed it up with a hairdryer a little bit, just buffing away. I did find it took a little bit longer to dry than some of the other oil paints that I have, the premix ones from Scale 75, but in sunlight or with a hairdryer it dried relatively quickly, and I'm able to go along now and just gently buff it away. Anywhere that looks a little bit too much like a paintbrush mark or something, I could just soften it slightly, leaving that mixed coloration. This is the grime, which you may have seen before if you're a regular viewer on the channel. You may have seen me use this on some of the Warhammer buildings and things I did, using it to paint sort of streaks of grime running down and whitewash buildings and things, and it works perfectly for that. Again, it's sort of medium intensity when it comes to pigment. It does build up a little bit around the edge of the lip of the pot, which is also handy sometimes because you can get your brush in there and put a sort of lump on and then feather it out. But overall, it's quite a subtle, faint green, which is perfect for what I'm using it for here, just to add more variations in colour, applying it pretty much to the same areas, little spots here and there, knowing that when it dries I can buff it off, get rid of any of those tide marks, and then you are left with, you know, more sort of green, slightly off green patches with the brown patches and the black patches, just to give that metal a more realistic look rather than it just look like airbrush paint. And usually the stronger the pigment and the thicker you apply this, the more colour you're going to leave on when you buff it away. These paints are all, as I say, relatively light in pigment, so sort of medium to light. So you'd have to apply quite thick to really leave a lot of the green on there. So it's definitely subtle, but I do like the effect that it has. I think it was definitely a stronger effect doing some streaks on whitewash walls and things, which I did before. These are also older releases, the Verdigris and the Rust, and they are, as you can see, a really bright, vibrant colour. So I just wanted to remind myself of how strong they were, because I use other things for Rust more often. I'm just applying them to a couple of shields, also left over from a metals painting tutorial I did the other day for a student. Just applying a little bit of the Rust into the sort of the screws here on the handle of the gun itself, just to look like there's a little bit of oxidization's been happening there, maybe from the sweat of the hand or something like that. And again, testing the Verdigris colour, and it actually comes out much duller when it dries than it looks in the pot. It looks so bright in the pot you think, whoa, that is just not going to work, but actually it works really well, especially around sort of gold and brass. You see, they can just sort of buff it off afterwards as well. It just leaves it a little bit in the recesses and works really well on a sort of an old gold effect that you can see here. But if I move over to the gun, you can see it there. It looks perfect just for running around the edges of the Aquila symbol there, just as if it's sort of ingrained. Again, maybe moisture in the air over time has changed the metal. There's a little bit of oxidization going on and just adding to the effect. Overall, I want all these things to look fairly subtle and not like I've painted 6 bright oil paints in different shades all over the weapon itself. So it is about waiting for them to dry and then taking a lot of it back off and blending in the edges so that there's no sort of really strong lines, so it's sort of soft and feathered out, and you just sort of build it up, and sometimes you need to reapply if it's not thick enough, but you can sort of see the effects starting to build up. So they've all got good use here, all working for me. This one was my concern area based on how light the pigment has been for some of the other paints. The rust and the verdigris are quite strong, but this is probably the weakest in the whole set, and in many ways might need to be the strongest. So what I'm doing here is allowing it to sort of recess shade, run into the recesses, so that once it's dry I can airbrush over the top and you get that glow effect you might see. You might use this on a plasma coil on a weapon or something like that. That's the kind of effect I want to achieve with these 3 buttons that are at the side. I thought it'd be nice if they had a little bit of a glow from the buttons. The problem I found was this paint is so light that I had to go back and do multiple passes of this white paint, and essentially you really want it to be a one job and done for this kind of thing, otherwise you're going to lose some of the detail, and you want the intensity to be really, really strong. And as you see from the colours building up by layers, and eventually you do get there with a strong enough colour, but that's what I want really from the painting. You see I'm airbrushing over the top. What I really want is it to go in one go. Otherwise I could just hand paint them in white acrylic. The idea is you want it to run into those recesses. So it's not quite doing the job I want for it there. But the finished effects on the weapon itself, they look pretty cool. All of the colours apart from the white did exactly what I needed them to. I would have probably liked some of them ideally to be a little bit stronger in pigment for the way I like to paint, but they absolutely all have their uses, and I will be using all of them because I love a ready mixed oil wash. It just saves it so much time. The rust and the verdigris are particularly good. I think while still fairly light in pigment, they could be stronger in pigment for people that want to spot on the rust and really feather it out. They do work well enough, and the pigment is strong enough for adding recess, rust and verdigris. I really liked the colours both on the mud and the grime. The grime I will continue to use. It is a little bit weak in pigment again, but it still does the job if you want to do some streaks or something, or very subtle grime lines. The mud, a little bit stronger in pigment, but same kind of thing. I would keep using those for sure. The carbon, not quite as bad as the molten, the white, but it's definitely very, very light in pigment. And the problem you've got there is with carbon, I'd love it to be thick enough so that I can build it up to a dry carbon effect on the end of an exhaust or something like that. This just isn't strong enough to do that, but what it does make is a really nice armor wash. So maybe the name would be better if it was something like that. The white, unfortunately, doesn't really do it as it is at the moment, so I couldn't recommend this at the moment for using what I was using for there. There might be other uses for it for sure, but if you want to use it for your recess shading, it just took far too long to dry. I mean, overnight it still wasn't fully dry, and it's just not strong enough in pigment. So I'm going to add some extra white to this and use the pot, but my least favourite out of the set. Well, thank you very much for watching. It was fun finishing this thing off finally, but it was also fun showing some new products from small companies and trying to support small companies where I can. Obviously, I use a lot of big branded stuff on the channel. I review Games Workshop stock that they have sent me. I've got paints that the AK and the Army Painter have sent me, but there are smaller businesses out there as well, and it's nice to give them a little bit of airtime as well. And as you've seen from my review, these are decent products and they all have a use. A couple of them I wish are a little bit more punchy in the pigment. So the colour's absolutely fine. What they do is absolutely fine for the most part, but you could really increase their usage by having a little bit more pigment, a little bit more paint in those mixes so that I can thin them down if needed to be, but they can also do those bigger, dirtier, punchier jobs, which at the moment now a couple of them wouldn't quite be up to that. But I know that that Knott's Hobbies will be listening to the feedback as well, so maybe that will enact a change in them in the future, but they are still good. And remember, paints and tools like this are designed to do different jobs in different places, and I have my favorite white paint from a certain range and I have my favorite red from another, and it may well be that for those dirtier jobs I'll be turning to a different brand, but for a certain sort of a lighter wash on armor or something like that, some of these slightly lower pigmented paints will be absolutely perfect for that as well. It might be just what you need for your projects. So all of these absolutely have use for the context which you want to use them in terms of their overall flexibility. Some are a little bit better than others, but thank you again to Knott's Hobbies for sharing these with me so I can share them with you.
If you have enjoyed the video, please do give it a like. There is a link for Knox Hobbies below. It is not an affiliate link where I get any money at all from them, but it does let them know that you've clicked through this video. So if you want to let them know that you've watched this video and seen their review, and you go and check their products, click through the link in the video description and they'll know that you've arrived from me. And then if you do go on and purchase, there is a discount code in that affiliate link as well. So you get money off it. I don't get money. It is not an affiliate where I get paid. Just to be really, really super clear on that, I got some free product. That's my returns for sharing these items with you. So if you enjoyed the video, drop a comment below, give the video a like, check out all the other videos on the channel. There's lots of sort of product review videos like this, but there's also loads of hobby stuff as well. So if you found the channel for the first time because of this video, please do stop and take a look around. There's also a link to my Patreon in the video. It's the very best way of supporting me. There's multiple tiers, and the top tiers are actually involve some painting, tuition or coaching. The tier 3 is feedback, and tier 4 is feedback and 1 hour's worth of Zoom tuition or coaching per month as well. So do check those out if you're interested in improving your painting and working towards getting those armies finished. But thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you soon.